Hey, if you're looking to start a home healthcare business and you need a set of financial projections to present to either a potential investor or a lender, and you're kind of stuck and trying to figure out how to come up with a financial model that will make sense for your industry, we've come to the right place because we have built a home healthcare financial projection template that's built specifically for this purpose. And I've linked to this template in the description of the video below, so you can go to that link, grab the template, and then follow along and build your own projections from there. But first, my name's Adam Huxema. I'm the co-founder of Projection Hub. We have helped thousands of entrepreneurs create financial projections over the last decade for potential investors, lenders, and really just internal planning as well. And so today we're going to be focused on this home healthcare template that I think you'll find really useful for creating some projections for your business. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the template. So we're going to start on the at a glance tab, and this is really kind of the end of the process. So once you have filled out all the assumptions for your revenue, your expenses, your startup costs, your financing from investors and lenders, ultimately you're going to be able to get a set of financial projections and an at a glance tab like this, where you can see some useful tables. You have a whole bunch of summary data here, key performance indicators for your business like average active patients, average revenue per direct labor hour, direct labor expense, your churn rate of patients, average patient lifetime customer value, total marketing spend, and patient acquisition costs. So lots of key numbers that you're going to need to know and want to be taking a look at. You also get a startup graph, use of startup funds, some cash flow and cash generated from operating activities graphs, monthly sales forecasts, and so on. You're also going to get a 5-year income statement summary, a 5-year cash flow statement summary, and a 5-year balance sheet summary. And you'll also get those 3 reports, the income statement, cash flow, and balance sheet for all 5 years by month, so you'll be able to get that monthly detail as well if you need it. So this is kind of the end result. In order to get there, we have a little bit of work to do to fill out some assumptions, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So the first thing you need to know is that every cell that's highlighted in blue is an assumption that you can change without breaking something in the model. So what we've done here, we have assumed that we're going to get some new equity or investor funding of $150,000. And we're going to buy a bit of equipment, a vehicle. Maybe we're just starting on our own initially, but then we're going to really try to scale up from there. We're also going to get a business loan of $250,000 to help cover payroll for providers because there's always going to be a delay in terms of that billing, when you bill and when you get paid. And so here what you'll see is we're saying 60 days, average days sales outstanding. So it's going to take you 60 days to collect is what we're assuming in the model. And then we also have a vehicle loan built in here. So now as we jump over to our input revenue tab, we're going to assume that you just kind of start out, you've done some legwork, and when you open day one, you're going to have 5 patients to take care of, provide services to. And you're also going to have an advertising budget and then a cost to acquire new patients. Now, these patients tend to be very high value in the sense that you could be working with them for a long period of time, and depending on the services that they need, it could generate a lot of revenue over the lifetime of the customer, and so that cost to acquire a patient ends up being pretty high. And so then based on those assumptions, we have calculated here new patients from paid advertising efforts, and then new patients from organic word of mouth or sales efforts here. Gives us total number of new patients. And then we add the new patients to the active patients that we already have, and we'll be able to calculate our number of active patients each month here. From there, we need to enter in some things about our different providers. So we have we add our different providers and then the hourly rate that we have to pay them, and this is kind of the full costs. So it's their hourly rate plus their any benefits, taxes that are involved there as well. And then the average weeks per hour, or I'm sorry, average hours per week that they work. And then as we scroll down here, we're going to be able to see the different services we provide. So we'll be able to add different categories of services and then specific services listed here. And we can add a number of different services and we'll put them each into their own category. So we'll select a category from the drop-down box. And then what we need to do is say what percentage of patients, of these total active patients from up above, of these total active patients, what percentage of those patients are going to need each service? So we're saying 24-hour care. Well, only 1% of patients, we're going to assume. Only 1% of patients are going to need 24-hour care. Maybe 2% of patients are going to need 12-hour care. 30% are going to need daily visits, and so on. And from there, you're going to put in what's the revenue per service. So to provide 24-hour care, what does that cost? How much revenue do you generate to provide 24 hours worth of care? So if we're saying $1,000 here, and then we have to select a drop down here, what type of provider is going to be providing that service? Okay, so we're saying a CNA is going to be providing that 24-hour care service. And what that does, we also have the number of labor hours per service. That's pretty obvious, 24 hours, we need 24 hours of labor. But then some of these other services, a daily visit, that's 2 hours of labor. Daily nursing visit, 2 hours of labor with an RN. So again, by putting in these different provider types and the number of hours that they'll need to work to provide that service, what that allows us to do is that calculate, based on these hourly rates, how much the labor cost is going to be to provide these services. And so once we have those assumptions entered, we'll be able to calculate revenue, projected revenue, as well as the direct labor expense for the staffing there. Now we'll jump over to our Input Other Expenses tab. And what you'll be able to do here is add specific expenses that you'd like. And then you can also categorize these expenses, and you can add more categories right over here. So there's some slots if you want to add some more categories. So for example, if we add a test category, and then from this drop down, we'll be able to see test is now an option. So delete that for now. And then the other key thing to point out is that you can add these expenses in 3 different ways. They can be a fixed dollar amount, meaning it's the same dollar amount every month, and then with an annual inflation rate that you can set up here. Or you can make the expenses a percentage of revenue. So a good example of that is, let's say patients are paying via credit card, and there's a payment processing fee of 2%. That might be 2% of revenue. So if we select percent of revenue as 0.02 or 2%, that would then calculate a credit card fee expense line item for you there. And then you can also have expenses as a per FTE, per full-time equivalent employee. And that would mean that these are expenses that are tied directly to each employee that you add. You would increase that particular expense by that amount. One thing I've listed down here as a typical expense probably for a home healthcare business is going to be a relatively major expense, depending on your model, would be the vehicle cost. And so there's different options, whether I guess you could buy the vehicles, you could lease vehicles, you could have the staff use their own vehicles and reimburse them. One way or another, you're going to need vehicles to provide these home healthcare services. And so we have kind of a all-in cost here of vehicles, and we have that set as a percentage of revenue at 15% here. But of course, depending on your situation, how far people have to drive, what types of vehicles you have, I mean, this number could vary greatly. And so you need to do your own research on this, figure out what your model is going to be, what kind of vehicles you're going to get, and all that sort of thing to make sure that you really dial in on what that number should be. All right, jumping over to our Input Salaries tab. Here you can add individual salaried positions. Now, remember, we have already taken care of the providers, so the CNAs, the RNs, those are already taken care of on the Input Revenue tab, so you don't want to enter them in again here. These are really the administrative positions. So you could have your CEO, CFO, you could have maybe you have a marketing director or sales director. You can add them here, add a salary, taxes, benefits if you have them, and then a starting month. What month does this position start? So they may not all start right on month 1. Maybe, for example, maybe we don't hire a CFO until month 6, and so you could enter that there. And then this calculates your total indirect labor expenses as well. Once you have that all entered, you're done. You're able to then take a look at your projected revenue. So based on the assumptions that we put in, we just hit $1 million in revenue in year 1 and had a small net loss of $21,000. And then you can see how that scales up over time based on our assumptions to $6.3 million in revenue with a $1.7 million net income by the end of year 5. And so if you need any help filling this template out for your specific plan, that's what we do. We'd love to help you with that. And so you can reach out to us either in the comments, ask us questions in the comment section of the video below, or reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com and we'd be happy to help. All right, if you have anything at all, again, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to help. Thanks.